The bitter Montana winter howls across Evergreen Ranch, where Jonathan Masters stands at his window, watching snow blanket his 20,000 acres. His weathered hands grip a cup of coffee as memories of that fateful night flood back. 3 years ago, he found her there, half frozen in the merciless blizzard, her clothes torn and bloodied, a widow running from the men who murdered her husband. His decision to dismount and carry her to safety would forever change both their lives. In the warmth of his grand ranch house, as he tended her wounds, neither could have known how their broken hearts would heal each other. Through the long winter nights, their shared silences grew into tender conversations and eventually blossomed into something more profound. What mysterious force brought these two wounded souls together on that snowbound night? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Dawn breaks slow over Evergreen Ranch, painting the Montana sky in watercolor strokes of amber and rose. Jonathan Masters wakes as he has for the past 30 years, before the sun, guided by instinct and the weight of responsibility that comes. With 20,000 acres of legacy, his boots echo through the empty hallways of the grand ranch house, each step a reminder of solitude. In the kitchen, the coffee pot sputters to life, a sound his mother used to say was like an old man grumbling about morning chores. The thought brings a slight smile to his weathered face as he reaches for his father's favorite mug, its rim worn. Smooth from decades of use, through the kitchen window, the first hints of winter dust, the distant mountains. November has always been a time of preparation at Evergreen, when the land itself seems to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable blanket of snow. The crunch of gravel outside announces Tom and Eddie, his most trusted hands, arriving for the day's work. Tom, pushing 70 but strong as an oak, has been with the ranch since Jonathan was a boy. Eddie, though younger, carries the same quiet competence that Jonathan has come to rely on over the past decade. "Storm's coming," Tom announces, stomping snow from his boots as he enters. His grey mustache is already frosted with ice. "Weather." Service says it'll be a big one. Jonathan nods, pouring coffee for all 3 men. They gather around the worn kitchen table, another piece of Masters' family history, where generations of ranchers have planned their days. The family Bible sits in its place of honor on the sideboard, its leather cover cracked with age, but well preserved, just like everything else the Masters family holds dear. "We'll need to bring the north herd down to the winter pastures," Jonathan says, spreading out a map marked with his father's careful annotations. "Can't risk leaving them exposed when this hits." Eddie traces the cattle's route with a calloused finger. "That's 2 days hard riding, boss. Weather holds, we might make it." The wind picks up outside, rattling the windows with growing insistence. Jonathan feels its chill even through the thick walls of the house his grandfather built. The storm is coming faster than expected, carrying with it a sense of urgency he can't quite name. They finish their coffee, in the comfortable silence of men who've worked together long enough to read each other's thoughts. As they head out, Jonathan pauses in his father's study, where photographs of 4 generations of Masters men watch over the ranch's books. His own image, taken when he inherited the spread 15 years ago, seems to stare back with questions he's never been able to answer. The day unfolds like a well-worn story. They ride out at first light, 3 men against the vastness of the Montana range. The cattle move slow, stubborn as always, while overhead the sky grows heavy with promise. By mid-afternoon, the first flakes begin to fall. "We should make camp," Tom calls over the rising wind. No sense pushing through this blind. But Jonathan hesitates. Something about the storm's approach sets his nerves on edge, like the air before lightning strikes. He's seen enough Montana winters to know when one means business, and this one carries malice in its voice. "You 2 head back," he decides, squinting through the thickening snow. "I'll check the line cabin. Make sure it's stocked. Might need it before this is over." Tom starts to protest. It's not safe to ride alone in weather like this, but 30 years of friendship tells him it's pointless. Jonathan Masters has his father's stubborn streak, and when he sets his mind, there's no turning it. As his men head back toward the ranch house, Jonathan turns his horse toward the distant cabin. The snow falls harder now, erasing the boundaries between earth and sky. He's always found a strange peace in these moments, when the world narrows to just him and his horse and the rhythm of survival. He couldn't know then that this routine check would change everything. That somewhere out in that swirling white darkness, fate was about to test everything he believed about love, loss, and the healing power of second chances. Sarah Miller's lungs burn with each desperate breath as she pushes through knee-deep snow. The broken locket bounces against her chest, its gold surface stained dark with blood. Not hers, David's. Her fingers clutch the torn remains of her travel cloak tighter, though the fabric offers little protection against the Montana winter. 3 days. Has it only been 3 days since she watched them murder her husband? The memory comes in brutal flashes. David standing in their cabin doorway, his gentle hands raised in surrender, the sharp report of gunfire, the way he crumpled, still, trying to shield her with his body. Her own voice, raw with screaming, as their tiny homestead erupted in flames. Just business, the leader had said, his breath visible in the cold air. Nothing personal, ma'am. Your man should have sold when we asked nice. She hadn't waited to hear more. While they were busy ransacking the cabin, she'd slipped away into the gathering dusk. David's last words echo in her mind. Run, Sarah, don't look back, run! The wind howls louder, driving sheets of snow that sting her face. She lost her bearings days ago, surviving on instinct and the small pouch of pemmican she'd grabbed in. Her flight. The cold has become a living thing, wrapping around her bones, whispering promises of rest if she'll just stop walking. Sarah stumbles, catches herself against a pine tree. Its rough bark tears her frozen palm, but she barely feels it. The numbness is spreading, clouding her thoughts. How long since she's slept? The nights and days have blurred together in an endless white nightmare. Her fingers fumble with the locket's clasp. Inside, the photograph remains pristine, her and David on their wedding day just 8 months ago. His smile still carries all. The warmth of that autumn afternoon, when he'd promised to build them a life in this wild country. They'd had such dreams, such plans. I'm sorry, she whispers, though the wind snatches the words away. Sorry for suggesting they try ranching in Montana. Sorry for not seeing the danger in those men's offers to buy their land. Sorry for leaving him there, in the ashes of their home. The storm intensifies, erasing any distinction between earth and sky. Sarah forces herself forward, though each step requires more effort than the last. She's heard stories of people freezing to death in storms like this, how they simply sit down to rest and never wake up. The thought holds a terrible appeal. But David's voice comes again, urgent now. Run, Sarah. So she runs, or tries to. Her legs won't quite cooperate, and the ground seems to tilt beneath her feet. The broken locket thumps against her heart like a second pulse, reminding her why she must survive. Those men will pay for what they did. She'll see justice done somehow. Time loses meaning. The world narrows to the space between one step and the next. Somewhere in the distance, through the howling wind, she thinks she hears hoofbeats. Her pursuers. No, they wouldn't have followed her trail in this weather, but the sound grows clearer, accompanied by the creak of leather and a horse's. Nervous whinny, Sarah tries to move faster to find cover, but her frozen limbs betray her. She trips, falls forward into a snowdrift. The impact drives what little air remains from her lungs. This time, when she tries to rise, her body refuses to respond. The hoofbeats stop. A voice calls out, carried on the wind. She can't make out the words, but the tone is different from her pursuers, gentle, concerned. Still, she's learned the hard way that gentle voices can hide cruel intentions. Help, she tries to call, but her voice emerges as barely a whisper. The snow cradles. her like a cold bed, and that terrible sleepiness returns. Her fingers clutch the locket one last time, as darkness creeps in from the edges of her vision. The last thing Sarah remembers is the sound of boots crunching through snow, drawing closer. A shadow falls across her face. Strong arms lift her, and a deep voice murmurs words she can't quite catch. Then consciousness slips away, and she falls into darkness, still clutching the only piece of David she has left. Jonathan pulls his grandfather's brass compass from his coat pocket, squinting at its face through the swirling snow. The old instrument hasn't failed him in 20 years of ranging this land, its needle always pointing true even when the sky offers no guidance. Right now it's telling him he's about half a mile from the lined cabin, closer to salvation than he'd thought. His horse, Storm, snorts and stamps beneath him, ears twitching at some sound carried on the wind. Jonathan leans forward, patting the stallion's neck with a gloved hand. "What is it, boy?" The animal's instincts have saved his life more than once in weather like this. That's when he hears it, faint, almost lost in the howling wind. A sound that doesn't belong in this emptiness, a human sound. Storm turns without being asked, following whatever caught his attention. Jonathan gives him his head, trusting the horse's senses more than his own in these conditions. The compass swings in his hand as they change direction, its needle wavering like an uncertain finger. Through the white curtain of snow, a dark shape emerges. At first, Jonathan thinks it's a fallen tree branch, but as they draw closer, his breath catches in his throat. A person lying half buried in a snowdrift. "Dear God," he mutters, dismounting so quickly his boots sink deep in the powder. The cold bites through his clothes as he wades toward the figure, but he barely notices. Years of Montana winters have taught him how quickly the elements can claim a life. It's a woman. Her travel cloak is torn and frozen stiff, and blood stains the fabric in dark patches. For a moment his heart stops. But no, she's breathing. Barely. Her skin is pale as the snow around her, lips tinged an alarming blue. "Ma'am?" He kneels beside her, checking her pulse. It flutters weakly against his fingers like a trapped bird. "Can you hear me?" Her eyelids flutter, but she doesn't respond. Something glints at her throat, a broken locket, its chain tangled in the frozen fabric of her dress. Her fingers are curled around it so tightly he doubts even the cold could pry them loose. There's no time to waste on questions. The storm is worsening and the temperature drops sharply as dusk approaches. The line cabin is too far. She'll never survive the ride. His ranch house is closer, maybe 30 minutes in good weather. In this, he'll have to push Storm hard. "Stay. With me," he murmurs, gathering her carefully in his arms. She's so light, barely weighing more than a child, though her clothes are stiff with ice. Her head lolls against his chest as he lifts her, and a soft sound escapes her lips, pain or protest, he can't tell. Getting back on Storm while holding her is a challenge he's never trained for, but necessity proves a harsh teacher. He manages it somehow, cradling her close with one arm while gripping the reins with his free hand. The compass he tucks away. He'll have to trust Storm's homing instinct now. "Home, boy," he tells the horse, "fast as you can." Storm needs no urging. The stallion seems to sense the urgency, picking his way through the deepening snow with sure-footed determination. Jonathan hunches over his mysterious passenger, trying to shield her from the worst of the wind. She's so cold, too cold. The logistics of what awaits at the ranch house run through his mind. Build up the fire, warm blankets, hot water bottles. Send Eddie for Doc Peterson if the storm allows. The woman stirs against him, mumbling something he can't catch. Her fingers work weakly at his coat, as if trying to get closer to the warmth. The broken locket catches the fading light, and he glimpses a photograph inside. This same woman, smiling beside a man on what looks like their wedding day. "Hold on," he tells her, though he doubts she can hear him over the wind. "Just hold on a little longer." Storm pushes through drifts that reach his chest, steam rising from his flanks. The world has narrowed to this, the rhythm of the horses. Breathing, the precious burden in his arms, and the desperate race against time and cold. Jonathan has lived his entire life on this land, but he's never felt its deadly power more keenly than in this moment. Finally, impossibly, the lights of the ranch house appear through the storm, like beacons of hope. Jonathan's never been more grateful for Tom's stubborn insistence on keeping the porch lanterns lit during bad weather. As they draw closer, he can make out two figures on the porch, Tom and Eddie, no doubt worried by his long absence. "Doc Peterson!" he shouts as soon as he's within earshot. "Get Doc Peterson!" He doesn't know if they can hear him yet, but they must see something's wrong. Eddie's already running for the stable, presumably to saddle a fresh horse. The woman in his arms hasn't moved in the last 10 minutes. But she's still breathing. He can feel each shallow exhale against his neck, counting them like prayers, as Storm makes the final approach to home and safety. The next hours blur together in a frantic dance of necessity. Tom's wife Martha appears, like an angel of mercy, her grey hair escaping its usual neat bun as she takes command of the situation. The ranch house's formal parlor transforms into an impromptu sick room, its elegant furnishings pushed aside to make space near the roaring fireplace. "Her clothes are frozen solid," Martha announces, her capable hands already working at the ice-encrusted buttons. "Jonathan, fetch my grandmother's medicine chest from the attic. Tom, we need more blankets, the wool ones from the cedar chest. Eddie, keep that fire blazing." Jonathan finds the old medicine chest exactly where it's always been, tucked between his mother's hope chest and generations of carefully preserved family records. The brass latches are cool under his fingers as he lifts it, remembering how his mother used to dispense comfort and healing from its mysterious depths. When he returns downstairs, Martha has somehow managed to change their unconscious guest into one of her own flannel nightgowns. The young woman's wet clothes lie in a heap by the door, the broken locket carefully placed on a side table. She looks smaller somehow, vulnerable in sleep. Her dark hair spread across the pillows Martha insisted on bringing from the best guest room. "Frostbite on her hands and feet," Martha reports grimly, applying snow to the affected areas with gentle patience. "But we found her in time, thank the Lord. Any longer out there?" She doesn't finish the thought. Doc Peterson arrives an hour later, his ancient truck somehow navigating the treacherous roads. The old doctor's face is red with cold as he stamps snow from his boots, but his hands are steady as ever as he examines. "They're patient." "You did right, Martha," he says finally, straightening up with a grunt. "The snow treatment for the frostbite was exactly right. She's young and strong. With proper care, she should keep all her fingers and toes." Jonathan releases, a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "What else can we do? Keep her warm. Get some broth in her when she wakes. And—" the doctor hesitates, his weathered face grave. "Those aren't just tears in her clothes, Jonathan. Some of that blood is fresh. Wherever she came from, whatever she was running from, she might not be out of danger yet." As if hearing them, the young woman stirs, her face contorting in distress. Martha's immediately at her side, murmuring soothing nonsense while dabbing her forehead with a cool cloth. The woman's eyes flutter open briefly, startlingly blue against her pale skin, then close again as she sinks back into exhausted sleep. "I'll stay with her," Martha offers, settling into the armchair Tom dragged close to the makeshift bed. "You men go get something hot in you. No sense having more patients to tend." In the kitchen, Tom pours coffee while Doc Peterson adds a generous measure of whiskey to his cup. The storm howls outside, but in here, surrounded by the familiar scents of coffee and wood smoke, it feels almost normal. Almost. "She's running from something bad," Doc Peterson says finally, breaking the contemplative silence. "Those kinds of injuries? Someone meant to hurt her, Jonathan." Jonathan thinks of the wedding photograph in the locket, of the blood on her clothes. "Then we'll just have to make sure they don't find her." Tom nods gravely, his lined face set in familiar determination. "Whole county knows not to cross the Masters family, boss. She's safe here." The fire crackles in the hearth, and from the Parlour comes the soft murmur of Martha's voice, singing an old hymn their mothers used to share. Outside, the storm rages on. But inside the ranch house, a fragile sanctuary takes shape around a stranger who arrived on the wings of winter itself. Later, making his final rounds before trying to sleep, Jonathan pauses in the parlour doorway. Martha has dozed off in her chair, and in the firelight, their mysterious guest seems to rest easier. Her hand has relaxed its desperate grip on the locket, though it still rests near her heart. "You're safe now," he whispers, though she can't hear him. "Whatever you're running from, it won't find you here, I promise." He doesn't know why he makes this vow to a stranger, but as he turns to leave, it settles in his chest like a weight, or perhaps like an anchor, giving purpose to his solitary life in ways he's not yet ready to examine. Sarah wakes to unfamiliar softness and the gentle crackling of a hearth fire. For a moment, she thinks she's back in her own cabin, and David will be bringing her coffee in bed, their morning ritual. Then memory crashes over her like ice water, and her eyes snap open. The room is grand but welcoming, its wallpaper faded to gentle patterns in the firelight. An older woman dozes in a nearby chair, grey hair escaping its pins, knitting needles lying still in her lap. Through the frost-covered windows, Sarah can see the storm still raging, nature's fury held at bay by solid walls and glowing warmth. Her movement must make some sound, because the woman stirs, eyes opening to reveal kind brown eyes set in a face, carved by years of sun and smiles. "There you are, dear. We've been worried." Sarah tries to speak, but her throat feels raw as sandpaper. The woman immediately reaches for a glass of water on the side table, helping her sip slowly. "Small sips now? I'm Martha. You're safe at Evergreen Ranch." The water helps, though Sarah's voice still emerges as a whisper. "How long?" "2 days," Martha answers, adjusting the quilts with practiced care. "The fever broke last night. Doc Peterson says you're past the worst of it. 2 days." Sarah's hand flies to her throat, panic rising. But no, the locket is there, carefully placed on a ribbon around her neck. Someone has even polished away the blood. "Jonathan found it with your things," Martha explains gently. "We cleaned it up a bit, hope you don't mind. Seemed important to you." Before Sarah can respond, boots sound in the hallway. A tall man appears in the doorway, his presence filling the space without effort. She recognizes him somehow, a voice in the storm, strong arms lifting her from the snow. "You're awake." His voice is deep, gentle in a way that reminds her painfully of David. He keeps his distance, as if afraid of frightening her. "How are you feeling?" "Better." Sarah manages to sit up slightly, though the effort leaves her trembling. "Thank you for finding me." "Jonathan Masters," he introduces himself. "And no thanks needed. No one should be out in weather like that." A shadow crosses his face, the unspoken question of why she had been. Sarah's fingers find the locket again, drawing strength from its familiar shape. These people saved her life. They deserve the truth, or at least as much of it as might. Keep them safe. "There are men," she begins, her voice steadier now. "They wanted our land, mine and my husband's. We'd only been in Montana 8 months trying to start a ranch of our own. They made offers at first, then threats." The memories rise like bile in her throat, but she forces herself to continue. 3 days ago, or 5 now, I suppose, they came back. David tried to reason with them. He always believed in reasoning with people. She has to stop, closing her eyes against the image of David falling, of blood spreading across the cabin's plank floor. A warm hand covers hers, Martha's, anchoring her to the present. "They killed him." The words fall like stones in the quiet room. "Burned our cabin. I ran while they were occupied with the fire. I don't know how long I walked or in what direction. Everything was white, and I couldn't think past surviving." Jonathan finishes softly. When she looks up, his eyes hold understanding rather than pity. "You did what you had to do." Martha squeezes her hand gently. "Do you Know who they were, dear? The sheriff should be told. Sarah shakes her head. They never gave names. Their leader had a scar. Here. She traces a line across her left cheek. They claimed to represent some development company, but the papers they showed us looked wrong somehow. David was going to ride to town, have them checked. Her voice breaks. He never got the chance. Jonathan moves to the window, his expression hardening as he stares out at the storm. Development companies don't burn cabins and murder honest folk. These men are something else. He turns back, and something in his stance reminds Sarah that this man's family has held this land for generations. I'll send word to Sheriff Burke when the weather clears. He's a good man. He'll want to hear this story himself. I can't stay. Sarah protests, though the mere thought of moving makes her dizzy. They might track me here. I won't bring danger to people who've shown me such kindness. Nonsense, Martha declares firmly. You're not going anywhere until you're properly healed, and after that, well, we'll see what the sheriff has to say. Jonathan nods, his expression softening as he looks at Sarah. Martha's right. Evergreen Ranch has stood against worse storms than this. Rest, heal, let us help. Something in his quiet certainty reaches past Sarah's fear, offering a foundation more solid than any she's felt since David's death. She looks down at her locket, at the happiness captured within its golden walls, and makes a decision. Thank you, she whispers, and means it for more than just their care. When she looks up again, tears blur her vision, but don't fall. I think David would want me to trust you. The days that follow settle into their own gentle rhythm. Sarah's strength returns slowly, marked by small victories. First steps across the room, then short walks in the hallway, always, with Martha hovering nearby like a protective hen with her chick. The frostbite heals gradually, leaving her fingers tender but whole, a testament to Martha's swift care. One afternoon, exploring the ranch house's main floor on steady legs at last, Sarah discovers the piano. It sits in a corner of the formal. In parlor, its mahogany surface reflecting the winter light like still water. Sheet music rests on the stand, yellowed with age but meticulously preserved. My mother's, Jonathan's voice comes from behind her, making her start slightly. He moves so quietly for such a large man. She used to play every evening after supper. Said music kept the loneliness away. Sarah trails her fingers over the keys, not pressing down. Did she teach you? Tried. A smile warms his voice. But I had my father's hands, better suited to roping cattle than playing Mozart. Without thinking, Sarah sinks onto the bench and plays a gentle chord. The piano's voice is surprisingly clear, perfectly in tune despite its apparent disuse. Someone's kept it tuned. Tom does it twice a year, says Mom would haunt him if he didn't. Jonathan moves closer, drawn by the music like a moth to flame. You play? In answer, Sarah begins a simple hymn, one her own mother taught her years ago. The familiar notes fill the room, and for a moment she can almost pretend the past few. Months never happened, but when she glances up, it's Jonathan standing there, not David, his expression softened by something that makes her heart skip strangely. Beautiful, he says softly when she finishes. The house has missed music. Later that evening, Martha finds them still in the parlor, Sarah playing while Jonathan tells stories of his mother, her favorite songs, how she'd play for ranch hands on Saturday nights, the way his father would pretend to be too busy for music, but always found his way to his armchair when she began to play. Well now, Martha says, her eyes twinkling, seems we've found ourselves a new pianist. About time these walls heard something besides men stomping around in boots. The next day brings another discovery. A shelf of books in Jonathan's study, their spines well worn from years of winter evening reading. Sarah runs her finger along their leather bindings, recognizing beloved titles from her own lost collection. Help yourself, Jonathan offers from his desk, where he's reviewing cattle records. Winter's long up here. Good books make good company. She selects a volume of Wordsworth, settling into a chair by the window. The poet's words about nature's healing power feel different now, read in this warm room, while snow drifts past outside. She glances up occasionally to find Jonathan watching. His expression thoughtful before he returns to his work. They fall into an easy routine. Mornings bring ranch business, which Sarah gradually learns about through Jonathan's patient explanations. She starts helping with the books, her teacher's eye for detail proving useful with the complex records. Afternoons often find her at the piano, music drifting through the house while Martha bakes or mends nearby. Evenings gather them all in. The study, Jonathan, Sarah, Martha and Tom, sharing stories and comfortable silences while the fire crackles. One night, after the others have retired, Sarah lingers at the piano, playing softly in the lamplight. The locket rests against her heart, its weight familiar now but different, less like a burden of grief and more like a treasured memory. "You know," Jonathan says from the doorway, his voice gentle in the dim light, "my mother used to say that God sends us what we need, even if it's not what we think we want." He pauses, choosing his words carefully. "Having music in the house again, it helps. I hope you know that." Sarah's fingers still on the keys, understanding what he's trying to say. This place has become more than just shelter from a storm. These people, Jonathan, Martha, Tom, have become more than just rescuers. They've become something dangerously close to family. "Your mother sounds like she was a wise woman," she says finally, closing the piano with care. When she stands, Jonathan is still watching her with that same soft expression that makes her breath catch. "She would have liked you," he tells her, and somehow those simple words feel like both a blessing and a promise. December arrives at Evergreen Ranch in a flutter of snowflakes and pine boughs. Martha insists on decorating properly, as she has every year since Jonathan can remember. The familiar boxes of ornaments emerge from the attic, each one wrapped in yellowed newspaper and decades of memories. Sarah finds Jonathan in his workshop one evening, bent over his father's old workbench. Wood shavings curl around his boots, and the scent of fresh-cut pine fills the air. In his hands, a small piece of wood gradually takes shape beneath careful strokes of his knife. "What are you making?" she asks, drawing closer. The lamplight catches threads of silver in his dark hair, and something tugs at her heart. How many nights has he spent here alone, creating beauty that few would ever see? He starts to hide the carving, then seems to think better of it. "It's supposed to be an angel. My father used to make one every Christmas for my mother. I thought—" He hesitates, then holds it out to her. "Would you like it? For the tree?" The angel is simple but lovely, its wings curved as if in flight. Sarah traces the delicate lines with her fingertip, feeling the care in every cut. "It's beautiful. Thank you." Their fingers brush as she takes it, and neither pulls away immediately. The moment stretches, fragile as a soap bubble, until Tom's voice rings out from the main house, calling them for supper. The next few days bring a flurry of preparation. Martha orchestrates everything with military precision, sending the men out for the perfect tree and setting Sarah to work in the kitchen. The scents of cinnamon and vanilla mingle with pine, and Christmas carols flow from the piano at all hours. "The whole county comes for Christmas Eve," Martha explains, as they bake another batch of cookies. "It's tradition. The Masters family has hosted since Jonathan's grandfather's time," Sarah's hands still in the dough. "The whole county?" Martha catches her tone immediately. "Those men won't dare show their faces here, dear. Not with Sheriff Burke and half the Montana Territory's finest in attendance. Besides," she adds with a knowing smile, "I've seen how Jonathan watches over you. Wild horses couldn't drag trouble past that man." The truth in Martha's words warms Sarah more than she cares to admit. She's noticed Jonathan's protective presence, the way he positions himself between her and doorways, how his eyes scan constantly when they're outside. It should make her feel smothered, but instead she feels cherished. Christmas Eve arrives clear and cold, stars sharp as diamonds above the snow-covered ranch. Wagons and trucks begin arriving early, bringing families from miles around. The Ranch house fills with voices, laughter, and the scattered notes of children testing the piano keys. Sarah retreats to the kitchen, overwhelmed by the crowd. She finds Jonathan there, hiding from the social obligations of host with a cup of coffee. "Too much?" he asks, understanding in his eyes. She manages a small smile. "A bit. It's wonderful, but sometimes memories hit harder during holidays." He sets down his cup. "Come with me, I want to show you something." He leads her through the back door and around the house to a small garden, now sleeping under snow. A bench beneath an ancient oak offers shelter from the wind and a view of the mountains, purple against the starlit sky. "My thinking spot," he explains, brushing snow from the bench. "When things get too busy inside, I come here to remember what matters." They sit in comfortable silence, watching their breath cloud in the cold air. From inside comes the sound of carols, muted by distance, into something almost magical. "David loved Christmas," Sarah says suddenly, surprising herself. It's the first time she's spoken of him without pain choking her voice. He would have loved this. All the people, the music, the joy of it. Jonathan's hand finds hers, warm despite the cold. "Tell me about him." So she does. She tells him about David's terrible attempts at baking, his love of astronomy, how he could charm any animal that crossed his path. The memories flow easier now, sweetened by time and distance. When she finishes, Jonathan reaches into his coat pocket. "I made something else. Been carrying it around for days, waiting for the right moment." He holds out a small wooden ornament, not an angel this time but a star, sanded smooth and polished to a soft glow. "Stars guide us home," my father always said. "And sometimes they guide us to new homes we didn't know we were looking for." Sarah's vision blurs as she takes the star, understanding all he's trying to say. Their faces are very close, now breaths mingling in the cold air. Jonathan's free hand rises slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushes a tear from her cheek. "Sarah," he whispers, her name a prayer on his lips. A burst of laughter from inside breaks the moment. They pull apart slowly, both a little shaken by what almost happened, but something has shifted, as irreversible as the changing seasons. "We should go back," Sarah says softly, though she makes no move to rise. "Martha will be looking for us." Jonathan nods, but his hand finds hers again as they walk back to the house, the carved star nestled safely in her pocket, a promise of things yet to come. The letter arrives 3 days after Christmas, carried by young Billy Thompson, whose family runs the general store in town. Jonathan finds the boy stamping snow from his boots on the porch, his face unusually grave for his 12 years. "Pa said to give this to you direct, Mr. Masters," Billy says, pulling a crumpled envelope from his coat. "Said it's important." The letter is from Mike Carson, an old friend who runs the saloon in Millbrook, 40 miles south. Jonathan's stomach tightens as he reads the hastily scrawled words. "Watch yourself, John. Men asking questions about a woman. Matching your guest's description. One has a scar on his left cheek. They're not what they claim to be. Sheriff Burke's looking into them, but something feels wrong. Keep her close." Jonathan burns the letter in the study fireplace, watching until Mike's warning crumbles to ash. Through the window, he can see Sarah in the garden, gathering dried herbs with Martha for winter cooking. The winter sunlight catches her hair, now healthy and shining, so different from the half-frozen woman he found in the snow. "Trouble?" Tom's voice comes from the doorway. The old ranch hand has always had a sixth sense for approaching storms, both natural and human. "Maybe." Jonathan hands him Mike's message to read before feeding it to the flames. "Get Eddie to ride. The fence lines more often. And we'll need extra eyes at night." Tom nods, understanding all that isn't said. "Martha won't like it, but we should move Sarah's room. Give her the old nursery, better sight lines and only one window. Easy to guard." The practical suggestion steadies Jonathan's racing thoughts. This is what they do, protect what's theirs. And somehow, without anyone quite saying it, Sarah has become theirs to protect. That evening, as Sarah plays the piano, Jonathan finds himself watching her hands move across the keys. Those same hands have grown stronger, no longer bearing the marks of frostbite. They've learned the rhythms of ranch life, how to mend tack, sort mail, balance ledgers, how to build a new life from the ashes of the old. He wants to tell her about the letter, about the men asking questions. But when she looks up and smiles, he can't bear to see fear shadow her eyes again. Not yet. Not when she's just beginning to bloom in the safety they've built around her. But Sarah, it seems, has developed her own instincts for approaching storms. She stops playing mid-song, her fingers hovering over the keys. Something's wrong. I can see it in how you and Tom are watching the windows. Jonathan moves to sit beside her on the piano bench, close enough to feel the warmth of her shoulder against his. Mike Carson sent word. Men in Millbrook asking about you. She doesn't flinch, doesn't cry out, just nods slowly, as if confirming something she's been expecting. The scar-faced man? Yes. Her hands fold in her lap, and he notices she's wearing the star he carved for her on a ribbon, alongside David's locket. I should leave. I won't bring danger to your door, not after everything you've... No. The word comes out sharper than he intended, and he gentles his voice. This is your home now, if you want it. We protect our own at Evergreen Ranch. Sarah turns to face him, searching his eyes for something. Why? Why risk so much for a stranger who arrived half dead in a snowstorm? Jonathan thinks of all the answers he could give her, because it's right, because his parents raised him to help those in need, because the ranch has always been a sanctuary for the lost and broken. But in the end, there's only one truth that matters, because you're not a stranger anymore, Sarah, and because He stops, the words catching in his throat. Too soon, too much, too dangerous, with shadows gathering at their borders. But Sarah's hand finds his, her fingers twining with his work-roughened ones. I know, she whispers. I feel it too. The piano sits silent as they lean into each other, drawing strength for whatever comes next. Outside, the winter wind picks up, carrying the first hints of another storm. But inside, in this moment, they have built something stronger than fear, warmer than the hearthfire's glow. We'll face it together, Jonathan promises, and feels her nod against his shoulder. Later that night, keeping watch from the study window, he sees Tom making his rounds, rifle cradled in experienced hands. The stars wheel overhead, cold and distant, but Jonathan feels anchored by the sound of Sarah's piano music drifting down from her new room in the nursery, defiant and beautiful against the gathering dark. Sarah finds the ring box while helping. Martha organized the attic, tucked away in a cedar chest filled with carefully preserved memories. It's a delicate thing, worn velvet faded to a soft blue that speaks of years of careful handling. Jonathan's mother's ring, Martha explains softly, taking the box with reverent hands. His father sold 3 prize horses to buy it. Catherine wore it every day of their marriage, even when working the ranch, said love shouldn't be too fine to touch real life. Inside, the gold band holds a single pearl surrounded by tiny diamonds, simple but elegant. Like its owner had been, Sarah imagines, from all the stories she's heard. She wanted Jonathan to have it, Martha continues, a wealth of meaning in her tone. For when he found the right person, Sarah's heart stutters at the implication, but before she can respond, boots sound on the stairs. Jonathan appears in the attic doorway, his expression softening, as it always does when he sees her. "Everything all right up here?" he asks, though his eyes say something else entirely. Martha closes the ring box with a knowing smile. "Just fine. Sarah's helping me sort through some old memories." She tucks the box away and makes her way to the stairs. "I'll start supper. You two finish up here." They both know Martha's excuse for what it is, but neither comments as she descends, leaving them alone among the gathered treasures of generations. Jonathan moves closer, picking up a framed photograph. "My parents' wedding day," he says, holding it so Sarah can see. A younger version of Martha beams from the background, while Tom stands proud beside Jonathan's father. They had 28 years together, not enough, but they made each one count. Sarah studies the happy couple in the photograph. Jonathan's mother, beautiful in a simple white dress, holds the pearl ring clearly visible on her hand. His father looks at her like she's the only person in the world. They taught me what love should be, Jonathan continues, his voice low and intimate in the quiet attic. Not just the pretty parts, but the hard days too, the way they faced everything together, even when the ranch was struggling or the winters were brutal. He sets down the photograph and reaches for something else, a small leather pouch that jingles softly as he opens it. From inside, he withdraws a delicate gold chain bearing a locket different from the one Sarah wears. Mom's, he explains. Dad gave it to her on their first anniversary. Said she needed something pretty to match the work-worn ring. His calloused fingers trace the intricate engravings. I've been keeping it safe, waiting. The word hangs between them, full of possibility. Sarah's hand rises unconsciously to touch David's locket at her throat, and Jonathan's eyes follow the movement with understanding. I'm not asking you to forget, he says gently. Love doesn't work that way. It grows, makes room for all the pieces of who we are, past and present. Sarah takes a shaky breath. I think David would understand. He always said love was meant to multiply, not divide. Jonathan's free hand finds hers, warm and steady. Sarah, I need you to know something. Whatever comes, whether those men find us or not, whether we have 50 years together or just today, I love you, not because I found you in the snow, or because you brought music back to this house, but because of who you are, all of you, including the parts that still love him. Tears blur Sarah's vision, but she doesn't look away from his earnest face. I love you too, she whispers, the words feeling both terrifying and inevitable. And I'm scared of losing this, losing you. If they... He pulls her close, and she goes willingly into his embrace. They won't take this from us, he promises. Against her hair. Whatever comes, we face it together. When he kisses her, it feels like coming home, not to the home she lost, but to one she never knew she was looking for. His hand cradles her face with infinite tenderness, and she can feel his heart racing to match her own. Later, as the winter sun sets beyond the attic windows, they sit among the gathered memories of generations of love stories. Jonathan carefully fastens his mother's locket around Sarah's neck, where it comes to rest beside David's, past and present, pain and joy, all the pieces that make a life worth fighting for. Perfect, he murmurs, and Sarah knows he means more than just the locket. She leans into him, feeling the solid strength of his presence, the steady beat of his heart. Outside, snow begins to fall again, but here in the attic, they have built a warmth that no storm can touch. The telegram arrives at dawn, carried by Eddie, who'd ridden into town before first light to check for mail. Jonathan reads it twice, the yellow paper crumpling slightly in his grip. Scarface and crew, spotted heading north. Stop 4 men heavily. Armed stop Sheriff Burke, following, but 1 day behind. Stop guard her stop. Mike Tom finds him in the study, already checking his father's old Winchester. Eddie told me, the old ranch hand says, closing the door behind him. Martha's keeping Sarah occupied in the kitchen, but she knows something's wrong. Girls got instincts. Jonathan nods, running a cloth down the rifle's barrel. Get word to the Peterson brothers and old Jack Wilson. We'll need extra eyes. He pauses, considering, and send someone for Doc Peterson, just in case. You're not sending her away? Tom's voice holds no judgment, just curiosity. Would you leave Martha? If it was her they were hunting? The answer lies in Tom's weathered face, in the way his hand unconsciously moves to the revolver at his hip. No, I wouldn't. Then don't ask me to send Sarah away. Jonathan sets the rifle down, meeting his old friend's eyes. She's suffered. Enough running. Whatever comes, we face it here. The sound of the piano drifts through the house. Sarah playing the hymn she's come to favor in troubled moments. Both men pause, listening to the notes rise and fall like prayer. Martha and I. We'll take the east wing, Tom says finally. High ground, good view of the approach road. Eddie and the Peterson boys can cover the north pasture. Jack Wilson may be old, but he's still the best shot in 3 counties. Put him in the barn tower. Jonathan feels a surge of gratitude for this man who's been more than just a ranch hand for 30 years. Thank you, Tom, for everything. Save it for the wedding. Tom replies gruffly, but his eyes are warm, assuming we all live that long. The music stops, and Sarah appears in the doorway. She's wearing both lockets now, David's and Catherine's, and her face holds the same quiet strength Jonathan saw when she first told them about the attack on her cabin. They're coming, aren't they? It's not really a question. Jonathan crosses to her, taking her hands in his. Yes, but we're ready. I won't leave, she says firmly before he can speak again. Don't ask me to run, Jonathan. I can't spend my life running. I wasn't going to. He pulls her close, breathing in the lavender scent of her hair. This is your home now, our home. We defend it together. She relaxes slightly in his arms, but doesn't lose her resolve. Then teach me to shoot. I won't be helpless again. Tom makes a sound of approval, and Jonathan remembers his mother, who could outshoot most men on the ranch. These Montana winters breed strong women. They have to. They spend the morning at the makeshift range behind the barn, Jonathan teaching Sarah the weight and feel of his mother's revolver. She's a quick study, her teacher's mind grasping the principles of aim and breath control. By noon, she's hitting the targets with reasonable accuracy. Your mother taught you? She asks as they walk back to the house, the revolver now secure in a holster at her hip. Every Sunday after church, Jonathan confirms. Said a rancher's wife needed to protect what's hers. He glances at her profile, struck again by how right she looks here, as if she's always belonged. She would have loved you, you know. Sarah's hand finds his, squeezing gently. Tell me about what happens next. So he outlines their preparations, the watch positions, the signals they've arranged, the escape routes they hope not to need. She listens with clear-eyed attention, asking smart questions about sightlines and response times. They'll come at night, she says with the certainty of experience. When they attacked our cabin, it was just after midnight. Jonathan nods, having expected this. We'll be ready. The ranch hands are doubling watches, and Tom's got the advantage of knowing every shadow on this land. Sarah stops walking, turning to face him. In the winter sunlight, her eyes hold both fear and determination. I need you to promise me something, anything. Promise me you won't take unnecessary risks. I can't lose another man I love to these monsters. Jonathan cups her face in his hands, his heart aching at the tremor in her voice. I promise to be careful, but I also promise to keep you safe, whatever it takes. I won't lose you either. They stand there in the snow, holding each other while, around them, the ranch prepares for war. From the barn tower, Jack Wilson keeps his watch. In the kitchen, Martha bakes enough to feed an army, her own way of fighting fear. And somewhere out there, 4 armed men ride north, carrying violence toward this place of healing and love. The storm is gathering, but they will face it together. Midnight brings a silence deep as death to Evergreen Ranch. The quarter moon casts just enough light to turn the snow-covered ground into a silver canvas, where any movement will write its own betrayal. Jonathan stands at the study window, his father's Winchester ready in his hands, watching. Sarah moves quietly beside him, her own vigil focused on the tree line where the north pasture meets the forest. She's changed into dark clothes borrowed from Martha, practical gear for a night that promises violence. Both lockets are tucked safely inside her shirt, their gentle weight a reminder of all she has to lose and all she has to fight for. The first warning comes from Jack Wilson's position. In the barn tower, 3 sharp whistles their practice signal. Shadows detach themselves from the tree line, dark figures moving with practiced stealth across the snow. 4 of them, Sarah whispers, her hand finding Jonathan's arm. Like the telegram said, he nods, already counting angles and distances. They'll split up, try to surround the house. His free hand covers hers briefly. Remember the plan. If anything happens, I remember. She turns to him, fierce and beautiful in the dim light. But nothing's happening to you. Not tonight. A flash of movement catches their attention. Eddie's signal from his position by the corral. The intruders are spreading out, just as Jonathan predicted. Through his rifle scope, he can make out the leader's distinctive scar, pale against the dark face. "That's him," Sarah breathes, her voice steady despite everything. "The one who shot David." Before Jonathan can respond, a voice carries across the snow-covered yard, falsely friendly. "Come on out, Mrs. Miller. No need for anyone else to get hurt. We just want to talk business." Sarah's hand tightens on the revolver at her hip, but she doesn't move. They'd discussed this. Any response would just give away their positions. "Your husband was stubborn too," the voice continues, harder now. "See where that got him? Don't make us do this the hard way." A shot cracks through the night, deliberately high, shattering one of the upstairs windows. Glass tinkles onto the porch roof like deadly wind chimes. That's when all hell breaks loose. Tom's rifle barks from the east wing, answered immediately by return fire. Jonathan sees one of the shadows stumble but not fall. Sarah moves to her assigned position by the back door, where she can cover both the kitchen entrance and the side path. Through the chaos, Jonathan keeps his focus on the scarred leader. The man is good, using every scrap of cover as he works his way closer to the house. But he doesn't know this land like Jonathan does, doesn't understand how the moonlight plays tricks in a Montana winter. More shots exchange, the Peterson brothers putting down covering fire while Eddie circles behind the attackers. In the barn. "Tower!" Jack Wilson's rifle speaks with deadly precision, forcing one of the men to abandon his advance and dive for cover. "Getting crowded out here, Mrs. Miller." The leader's voice carries a new edge of frustration. "Your new friends can't protect you forever. Why don't you ask them about the development plans for this whole valley? Ask them who really owns this land." Jonathan feels rather than sees Sarah's questioning glance. "He's lying," he tells her, quietly, trying to sow doubt. "The masters have held this land free and clear for 3 generations. A bullet smacks into the wall near the window, sending splinters flying. Jonathan returns fire, satisfaction flowing through him at the curse that follows his shot. Suddenly, Martha's voice rings out from upstairs. "North side! They're trying the back door!" Sarah's already moving, her steps sure in the darkness. Jonathan wants to follow, to protect her, but he forces himself to hold position. She knows what she's doing. They all do. The sound of gunfire from the kitchen makes his heart stop. 1 shot, then 2 more in quick succession. Sarah's revolver, he recognizes the sound. Then silence, terrible and complete. "Sarah." He pitches his voice low, urgent. "I'm all right." Her reply comes back steady. 1 down. He won't be climbing any more trellises. Pride and fear war in Jonathan's chest. Before he can respond, movement catches his eye. The scarred leader making a dash for better cover. Time slows. As Jonathan leads his target, just as his father taught him, he breathes out slowly, finger tightening on the trigger. The Winchester roars, and the man spins, clutching his shoulder. But he doesn't fall. Instead, he raises his own weapon, aiming not at Jonathan, but at the kitchen door where Sarah's voice came from. No. Jonathan's denial becomes action. He throws himself through the study door, knowing he'll never make it in time. And then Jack Wilson's rifle cracks 1 final time from the barn tower. The scarred man jerks, his shot going wild, and crumples into the blood-stained snow. The night holds its breath. In the sudden quiet, Sarah's heart pounds against both lockets as she makes her way through the darkened house. The man she shot lies groaning by the kitchen door, his weapon kicked safely away, Martha covering him with unwavering aim. "Jonathan?" Sarah's voice cracks with fear and need. "Here." He appears from the study, whole and alive, and she nearly collapses with relief. They meet in the hallway, checking each other for injuries with trembling hands. "The scarred man?" she manages to ask. "Dead." Jonathan's voice is grim but certain. Jack Wilson's shot. The others, Tom's voice carries. From outside, 2 trying to run for the trees. Eddie and the Petersons are on them. Jonathan starts to move, but Sarah grabs his arm. "Together," she reminds him. He nods and they head for the front door as one. The scene outside is chaos, painted in moonlight and shadow. Jack Wilson still commands the high ground from his barn. Tower, rifle trained on the tree line. Tom and Martha have their wounded man secured, and in the blood-stained snow lies the body of the man who killed David, his scarred face turned toward the indifferent stars. Sarah approaches slowly, Jonathan at her side. She needs to see, needs to know it's really over. The man looks smaller, in death, less like the monster of her nightmares. His blood stains the snow crimson, already freezing in the bitter cold. "Sheriff's coming!" Eddie's voice rings out from the darkness. "Can see the lanterns on the road." Sarah kneels in the snow beside her husband's killer, not touching him, but searching his face for answers she knows she'll never find. "He was just a man," she says softly. "Just a greedy, violent man." Jonathan's hand settles warm on her shoulder. The worst monsters usually are. The sound of horses and men approaching brings them back to the moment. Sheriff Burke arrives with 6 deputies, their lanterns casting jumping shadows across the scene. The lawman takes in the situation with experienced eyes. "Looks like we missed the party," he says, dismounting. "Everyone all right?" "All of ours," Tom reports. "One of theirs dead, 1 wounded here, 2 being brought in by Eddie and the Petersons." The sheriff nods, then focuses on Sarah. "Mrs. Miller, been looking for these men since your husband's murder. Found proof they're working for some outfit called Western Federation Development. Company's as fake as a $3 bill, just a front for land grabs and strong-arm tactics." Sarah stands, leaving the dead man to the law. "They won't be hurting. Anyone else?" "No, ma'am. We've got enough on the surviving ones to put them away for life, and that company's going to have some hard questions to answer." Jonathan's arm slides around her waist, supporting her as the adrenaline begins to fade. She leans into him, suddenly exhausted. The next hours pass in a blur of activity. Doc Peterson arrives to treat the wounded man, though his sympathy seems limited. Deputies take statements, sketch maps, photograph evidence. Martha makes coffee strong enough to hold up a spoon, pressing cups into cold hands. Dawn finds Sarah and Jonathan on the porch, watching the law's procession depart with their prisoners. The dead man has already been taken away, leaving only blood-stained snow to mark his passing. "It's really over," Sarah whispers, touching both lockets through her shirt. The past and present, grief and hope, all tangled together like the chains around her neck. "Yes." Jonathan turns her gently to face him. His eyes are tired but warm with love. "You're free." The word hits her like a physical force. Free. Free. To live, to love, to build something new without looking over her shoulder. Free to honor David's memory while opening her heart to a future he would have wanted for her. Tears come then, not the bitter tears of grief, but cleansing ones that wash away the last of her fear. Jonathan holds her close, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "I chose right," she says against his chest. "That night in the snow, fighting to survive. David always said God works in mysterious ways." She looks up at the man who saved her in more ways than one. "He led me here. To you." Jonathan's kiss, tastes of coffee and gun smoke and promise. When they part, the sun is rising over the mountains, painting the snow-covered ranch in shades of pink and gold. "Welcome home," he whispers, and Sarah smiles through her tears, knowing that this time it's forever. The days following the attack pass in a gentle haze of recovery and reflection. Doc Peterson makes daily visits, checking not just the physical wounds, Jonathan's grazed shoulder, Tom's sprained ankle, but the invisible ones that only time can heal. "My father used to say that violent nights leave marks on the soul," the old doctor tells them, writing careful notes in his leather journal. "Best medicine for that is love and patience." Sarah finds herself drawn to the piano more than ever, playing the old hymns that kept her company during her first days at the ranch. Sometimes Jonathan sits with her, content to listen. Other times, She catches him watching her from the doorway, as if reassuring himself that she's really there, really safe. The shattered window upstairs becomes an unexpected catalyst for healing. Martha insists they all help with the repair, not just the men, but Sarah too. Ranch women need to know how to fix things, Martha declares, showing Sarah how to measure and cut the glass. Can't always wait for the menfolk when something breaks. So, they work together, Sarah learning the satisfaction of creating something whole from broken pieces. The metaphor isn't lost on any of them, but they let it rest unspoken, comfortable in their shared understanding. One evening, Sarah finds Jonathan in his workshop, carefully restoring his father's Winchester. The rifle that helped save their lives now receives the same loving care as all the family heirlooms. I've been thinking, she says, settling onto a workbench, about what that man said, about development plans for the valley. Jonathan's hands still on the gun oil cloth. Sheriff Burke sent word. They've uncovered quite a scheme, buying up ranches through intimidation, planning to build some kind of resort complex. Would have destroyed everything that makes this country special. But they didn't count on people like you, Sarah observes, people with roots too deep to be bought or scared away. He sets the rifle aside, turning to face her. Or people like you with the courage to stand and fight instead of running. Their eyes meet in the lamplight, sharing memories of that desperate night. Sarah touches both lockets, a gesture that's become as natural as breathing. I was so afraid, she admits. Not of dying exactly, but of losing this, losing you. Jonathan crosses to her, taking her hands in his. The gun oil makes his fingers slick, but she holds on tight. When I heard those shots in the kitchen, he shakes his head. I've never been so scared in my life. But we made it. She leans into him, breathing in his familiar scent of leather and wood shavings. We all did. He chuckles softly. Martha's already planning the spring garden as if nothing happened. Says we need more flowering plants to brighten up the place. She's right. Sarah pictures color blooming where blood stained the snow. Life goes on. David taught me that after his parents died. You have to keep planting, keep growing. Jonathan's arms tighten around her. Speaking of growing, the things, he hesitates. Tom mentioned maybe building a new schoolhouse on the ranch. Says there are enough children among the hands and nearby farms to warrant a teacher, if you're interested. Sarah pulls back to study his face, her heart swelling. He knows how much she misses teaching, knows it was part of her dream with David. Now he's offering a way to honor that dream while building something new. I'd like that, she says softly. Very much. His smile warms her to her toes. Good, because I already ordered the lumber. They laugh together, the sound echoing in the workshop like music. Outside, the February wind howls around the corners of the ranch house, but its teeth have been pulled. Winter's worst is behind them now, in more ways than one. Doc Peterson says Tom can start riding again next week, Jonathan mentions. We'll need to start planning the spring roundup soon. Sarah nods, understanding this is his way of including her in the ranch's future. Martha's been teaching me about supply calculations for the chuck wagon. She says I have a good head for numbers. You have a good head for everything. He kisses her forehead, and a brave heart to match. They stay there in the workshop's warm silence, holding each other, while outside the winter stars wheel overhead. The ranch sleeps around them, peaceful and strong, like a living thing healing from its wounds. Tomorrow will bring more repairs, more plans, more small steps toward whatever future they're building together. But for now, they have this moment, this peace, this certainty that love can grow from the hardest ground and bloom even in winter's heart. March arrives like a revelation, bringing with it the first hints of spring to Evergreen Ranch. Sarah discovers the season's earliest flower one morning, a tiny purple crocus pushing through the melting snow near the kitchen door. She kneels in the damp earth, tears mixing with her smile as she remembers David's favorite saying, "Life finds a way, even in the hardest places." Martha finds her there, gentle understanding in her eyes. "First flower of spring," the older woman says, kneeling beside her despite creaking joints. My mother-in-law always said it's good luck to plant something new when you spot the first crocus. She believed in marking new beginnings. Together, they dig in the softening soil, planting the seeds Martha's been saving all winter, hardy wildflowers that can withstand Montana's unpredictable moods. Sarah's hands, once soft with city living, now move with comfortable familiarity. And through the dirt, I've been meaning to give you something, Martha says as they work. From her apron pocket, she draws out a small packet of papers, yellowed with age. Catherine's garden journals. Jonathan's mother kept detailed notes about what grows best here. Thought you might like to have them. Sarah accepts the precious gift with soil-stained hands, recognizing it for what it is. Not just gardening advice, but a passing of the torch. Thank you, she whispers, knowing the words aren't enough. She'd be proud, Martha says simply, patting Sarah's arm. Of both of you. The sound of hammering draws their attention to the rising framework of the new schoolhouse. Jonathan and Tom work alongside the ranch hands, the structure taking shape day by day. Sarah's already started collecting books, planning lessons, dreaming of the children who will soon fill the space with learning and laughter. Jonathan spots her watching and raises a hand in greeting, his smile visible even at this distance. He looks younger somehow, as if the winter's shadows have fully lifted from his shoulders. She waves back, her heart full of a joy she never expected to feel again. That evening, they walk together through the awakening ranch, checking on new calves and spring repairs. The sunset paints the snow-capped mountains in shades of rose and gold, while in the valleys, patches of green begin to show through the retreating white. Looks like a good season coming, Jonathan observes, his arm warm around her waist. Strong. Calves, healthy grass, plenty of water in the streams. Sarah leans into him, breathing in the promise of spring. Martha gave me your mother's garden journals today. He's quiet for a moment and she feels him swallow hard. Those journals were her pride and joy. She wrote in them every day, even when she was sick. Said she wanted to make sure the knowledge wasn't lost. I'll take good care of them, Sarah promises. And I'll add my own notes for the next generation. Jonathan stops walking, turning to face her. The setting sun gilds his features as he takes both her hands in his. Sarah Miller, he says formally, though his eyes dance with joy. Will you marry me? Even expecting it, hoping for it, the words take her breath away. She touches the two lockets at her throat, feeling the rightness of past and present coming together in this moment. Yes, she whispers, then louder. Yes. He sweeps her into his arms, spinning her around as if she weighs nothing. When he sets her down, his eyes are suspiciously bright. I've been carrying this for weeks, waiting for the right moment. From his pocket, he draws out the blue velvet box she remembers from the attic. Mum wanted you to have it. Will you wear it? Sarah holds out her trembling hand, watching as he slides the pearl ring onto her finger. It fits perfectly, as if it had been waiting all these years just for her. Perfect, he murmurs, echoing her thought. Jonathan, she says softly, looking up at the man who saved her life and then helped her learn to live again. I love you. His kiss tastes of sunshine and promises, of winter's memory and spring's renewal. When they part, the first stars are appearing in the darkening sky, but neither feels the evening chill. They walk back to the ranch house hand in hand, their footsteps leaving parallel tracks in the spring mud. From the kitchen window comes the warm glow of lamplight, and Sarah can hear Martha humming as she prepares supper. Tomorrow will bring more work, gardens to plant, lessons to plan, a wedding to prepare for. But tonight they have this perfect moment, this promise of a future as bright as the stars above and as enduring as the mountains that guard their home. Spring unfolds across Evergreen Ranch in a symphony of renewal. The wedding preparations become a community affair, with every hand on the ranch contributing in their own way. Sarah finds herself at the center of a whirlwind of activity, yet somehow it feels different from her first wedding. More grounded, perhaps, more like coming home than setting out. She decides to make her own dress, working with fabric Martha ordered from Denver. The simple pattern takes shape under her hands. During quiet evenings, each stitch a meditation on the journey that brought her here. Sometimes in the lamplight, she catches the gleam of both lockets and Catherine's ring, physical reminders of how love builds upon itself, growing stronger through loss and recovery. "Your old dress was silk, wasn't it?" Martha asks one afternoon, as they work together, her experienced hands helping with the intricate bodice. "Yes," Sarah replies, remembering. "David's mother's dress, actually. It felt important at the time, carrying on traditions." She smooths the new fabric, sturdy cotton with delicate embroidery. "But this feels right for who I am now. A ranch, wife's dress." Martha's eyes crinkle with approval. Practical but beautiful, like the best kind of love. The schoolhouse nears completion, its fresh-cut timber still fragrant in the spring air. Sarah splits her time between wedding preparations and setting up her classroom, often finding Jonathan watching her from the doorway as she arranges books and hangs maps. "What are you thinking?" she asks one such evening, catching his thoughtful expression. He crosses to help her with a stubborn chalk rail. "About how right you look here. Teaching, building a garden, planning our future. It's like the ranch was waiting for you, or I was waiting for it." She leans into him, fitting perfectly against his side. "For you." The ranch hand's children already hover around the schoolhouse eagerly, pestering Sarah with questions about when classes will start. She's promised to begin teaching as soon as she returns from their honeymoon, a week in Helena that Jonathan's arranged as a surprise. Tom and Eddie oversee the transformation of the barn for the wedding celebration, hanging lanterns and clearing space for dancing. Jack Wilson, recovered from his night in the tower, crafts a beautiful arch from twisted willow branches under which they'll say their vows. "Reminds me of my own wedding day," he tells Sarah, his weathered hands carefully weaving smaller branches. "Into the arch. 43 years ago now, my Mary would have loved to see this." Even Sheriff Burke contributes, delivering the final paperwork that officially closes the case against Sarah's attackers. "Western Federation Development's been shut down," he reports with satisfaction. "Their backers are facing federal charges. No one else will lose their land to those vultures." The news feels like the closing of a book, the final page of an old story, making way for a new one. That night, Sarah adds her own entry to Catherine's garden journal, recording not just the spring plantings, but her hopes for the future there. Building. At sunset, she finds Jonathan in the garden she and Martha have created, kneeling to examine the growing rows of vegetables and flowers. The sight catches her heart. This strong man being so gentle with new life. "Everything's almost ready," she says, joining him among the neat rows. Martha's finished the last of the food planning. The dress just needs its final touches, and Tom swears the barn floor will be perfect for dancing. Jonathan stands, brushing dirt from his knees, and pulls her close. "And you? Are you ready?" She knows he's asking more than just about the wedding. He's asking if she's ready for this new life, this new chapter, this permanent joining of their worlds. Sarah touches the lockets at her throat, then reaches up to cradle his face in her hands. "I'm ready. My heart knows exactly where it belongs." His kiss tastes of spring earth and summer promises. When they part, the evening star is just appearing above the mountains, bright as hope. "3 more days," he murmurs against her hair. "3 more days," she echoes, smiling. "Then forever." They walk back to the house hand in hand, past the new schoolhouse and the willow arch waiting to witness their vows. Inside, Martha's voice mingles with Tom's laughter, while the smell of fresh-baked bread fills the air. Their family, their home, their future, all coming together in a tapestry of love and hope, as bright as the Montana spring. The morning of the wedding dawns clear and bright, as if Montana itself has chosen to celebrate. Sarah wakes early in her room, soon to be their room, watching the sunrise paint the mountains in watercolor hues of pink and gold. Both lockets rest in her hands, and she takes a moment to open each one, honoring the path that led her here. "Thank you," she whispers to David's smiling photograph, for teaching me how to love, for showing me that life goes on. Then she closes his locket gently and opens Catherine's, studying the woman whose ring she now wears. Thank you for raising the man I'm about to marry, for creating this home that saved my life. Martha finds her there, already dressed but lost in thought. Ready to become Mrs. Masters. Sarah's smile trembles but holds true. More than ready. The next hours pass in a blur of final preparations. Martha helps her into the dress, simple but elegant, with tiny wildflowers embroidered along the hem, a tribute to her new home. Her dark hair is pinned up with Catherine's pearl combs, found in the attic and restored to gleaming life. Something old, something new, Martha recites, adjusting the folds of the dress. The combs are old, the dress is new. Those lockets are borrowed from two great loves, and the ribbon in my hair is blue. Sarah finishes, touching the soft silk that matches the Montana sky. Outside, they can hear the arrivals beginning, wagons and trucks bringing guests from across the county. The sound of Tom directing parking mingles with children's laughter and the excited barking of ranch dogs. Jonathan's ready, Eddie reports, popping his head in, looking mighty fine in his father's suit. He grins at Sarah. You look beautiful, ma'am, like you stepped right out of a fairy tale. Sarah catches her reflection in the mirror, barely recognizing herself, not because of the dress or the careful hair, but because of the joy radiating from her face. She looks like a woman who knows exactly where she belongs. The ceremony is set for noon, when the sun will be directly overhead, blessing their union with golden light. As the hour approaches, Martha helps her down the stairs and through the kitchen to the back garden, where Jack Wilson's willow arch stands ready. The gathered crowd draws in a collective breath when she appears. But Sarah has eyes only for Jonathan, waiting for her beneath the arch. He's wearing his father's restored suit, watch chain gleaming, his face transformed by love and wonder as he watches her approach. Tom, serving as both ranch foreman and father. Figure offers his arm to walk her down the makeshift aisle. Children have scattered wildflower petals along the path, and someone, probably Eddie, has managed to train morning glories to climb the willow arch, their blue flowers echoing the ribbon in her hair. Who gives this woman? Reverend Matthews asks, his weathered face beaming. We all do, Tom answers, his voice gruff with emotion. Her whole ranch family. The traditional words take on new meaning here, spoken under Montana's vast sky with the ranch spreading out around them. When they exchange rings, Catherine's pearl for her, a simple gold band for him, Sarah feels the weight of history and future combining in perfect balance. The love that brings us here today, Reverend Matthews says, is a testament to God's grace and perfect timing. Like rivers joining to form something stronger, these two hearts have found each other through storm and loss, through winter's trials and spring's renewal. Jonathan's hands are warm around hers as they speak their vows. Sarah's voice carries clear and strong across the hushed gathering. I promise to love you through all seasons, to help tend this land and the people who call it home, to honor the past while building our future. You found me in winter's darkness and helped me find my way to spring. My heart is yours forever. Jonathan's eyes shine as he responds, I promise to love you through all weather, to be your shelter and your adventure, to honor your strength and share your burdens. You brought music back to this house and joy back to my life. My heart is yours forever. By the power vested in me, Reverend Matthews pronounces, and witnessed by God and this company, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Their first kiss as married couple tastes of tears and laughter, of endings and beginnings. The gathered crowd erupts in cheers, and somewhere in the distance, a meadowlark begins to sing. As they turn to face their celebrating community, Sarah feels the two lockets resting against her heart, no longer a burden, but a blessing. The past and present, grief and joy, all woven together into this perfect moment beneath the Montana sky. 1 year later, Jonathan Masters stands at his study window, watching snow blanket Evergreen Ranch's 20,000 acres. His weathered hands grip a cup of coffee as memories warm him more than the steaming liquid. The scene before him mirrors that fateful night when he found Sarah in the snow, yet everything has changed. The sound of the piano drifts through the house. Sarah teaching young Amy Peterson a simple hymn while waiting for her other students to arrive. The schoolhouse has proven too cold for lessons this December morning, so they've moved class into the formal parlor. Children's voices blend with the music, carrying life and laughter through rooms that once echoed with loneliness. Martha bustles in, carrying a fresh pot of coffee. "New families coming to look at the Petersons' old place," she announces. Sarah thinks they've got 3 school-age children. Jonathan nods, pleased. The ranch community has grown this past year, drawn by the promise of good land and Sarah's reputation as a teacher. The valley feels more alive than it has in decades. "Mail's here," Tom calls from the front door, stamping snow from his boots. "Letter from Sheriff Burke." The envelope contains a formal document, final confirmation that Western Federation Development's principals have been sentenced. Justice served, though they'd stopped waiting for it months ago. Jonathan adds the paper to his father's desk drawer, closing that chapter for good. The grandfather clock in the hall chimes 9, and right on schedule, he hears the clip-clop of horses bringing more students through the snow. Sarah's voice lifts in greeting, and he can picture her at the door, wearing the wool coat he gave her for their 6-month anniversary, her cheeks pink with cold and happiness. Their first year of marriage has transformed the ranch in countless ways. Sarah's garden flourished all summer, providing vegetables for their table and flowers for every windowsill. The schoolhouse has become a community center, hosting social gatherings and church services when weather permits. Even the ranch hands' families have grown closer, drawn together by Sarah's gentle influence. Jonathan makes his way to the parlor, pausing in the doorway to watch his wife guide small hands over piano keys. Both lockets still grace her throat, but they rest easier now, treasured memories rather than heavy burdens. Catherine's ring catches the morning light as Sarah gestures, explaining notation to her young pupils. She looks up, catching his eye, and her smile still takes his breath away. "Children," she says to her class, "can anyone tell Mr. Masters what we learned about Montana history yesterday?" Little voices compete to share facts about their home state, and Jonathan settles into his father's old armchair to listen. This is what the ranch was always meant to be, not just a working cattle operation, but a true community, a place where life and learning flourish together. Later, after the children have gone home through the softly falling snow, Sarah joins him in the study. She carries something carefully wrapped in tissue paper. "Early Christmas gift," she explains, settling onto the arm of his chair. "I wanted you to have it now." Inside the paper lies a new leather-bound book, its cover tooled with the ranch's brand. Opening it, he finds Sarah's neat handwriting filling the first page, "The History of Evergreen Ranch, as told through 4 generations of the Masters family, compiled with love by Sarah Miller Masters." "I interviewed everyone," she explains softly. "Tom and Martha, the old-timers in town, even Jack Wilson before he passed. All their stories about your family, the ranch, the valley. I thought our children should know where they come from. All of it. The hard times and the good, the losses and the love." Jonathan has to swallow hard before he can speak. "Our children." Sarah's smile blooms like a winter rose as she takes his hand and places it on her still flat stomach. "Come spring," she whispers. Joy rises in him like a tide as he pulls her into his lap, holding her close while snow falls gentle outside. They've come so far from that desperate night when he found her half frozen in a drift. Love, he's learned, is like Montana itself, capable of fierce storms and incredible beauty, of crushing loss and miraculous renewal. "Thank you," he murmurs against her hair. "For what? For fighting to survive that night. For trusting us, for making this house a home again, for everything." Sarah turns in his arms to kiss him, and outside, the snow continues to fall on Evergreen Ranch, not a harbinger of death now, but a clean white page on which to write their next chapter together.